Hey up, my ducks, welcome to the Hermit's Cave. It's so great to see so many people here waiting. I think this is like the most I've ever had waiting before we've gone live before. So welcome everybody. Um, if it's your first time here and you're not sure what's happening, then on a Saturday at 4 o'clock in the Hermit's Cave, there's either a cup of catch up and cards or I do a catching up with, and it's with somebody from within our online tarot community. And today I'm really pleased and excited that this person has agreed to come on and allow me to put him through the ringer with the interview questions that I usually have, because this is somebody that we've known for some time, even though, and we'll get into this, haven't had a channel for very long. But without further ado, let me introduce and bring in our very own Chris from Elemental Cartomancy. Do you want to say hello, Chris?
Hey everyone, how's everyone doing? It's lovely to see everyone here.
Yeah,
Hi Simon.
so many people here. Hello. Have you got a cuppa?
I do indeed. I've got it in my Mr. Perfect mug. I should probably have picked a less arrogant mug actually, I'm now thinking. But yeah, I've got a standard cup of Builder's Brew. I like a nice strong cup of tea. So that's what I'm drinking.
Yeah. Any particular brand?
Well, Tetley's is my usual. But if I'm feeling like a fancy bitch, then it'll be Twinings everyday breakfast. If I'm feeling a wee bit extravagant, a wee bit fancy, then Twinings English breakfast. Sorry.
It's funny, isn't it, how we kind of categorize our teas. So your bog standard, what we call our builder's tea, would be PG Tips, Tetley, or Yorkshire tea, something like that.
Yeah.
Want to be a little bit fancy, then we might move into Pucker or Twinings, or it's all down to price point, though, isn't it? What makes something
I know.
feel fancy?
I know. That's that. If you were to make me be really honest with myself, I don't really know if I can taste much of a difference between the Tetleys and the English breakfast, but still, it's like a square tea bag and everything. It's very exciting.
Yeah, black tea's black tea, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, how is everybody else in the chat? As I said, it's great to see so many people here. I'll just pop up what we're doing. So it's going to be a catching up with today with our very own Chris. So I hope you've all got a cuppa. As usual, I've got a set of questions that I'm going to have a chat with Chris about. And if you have any questions that you want me to ask Chris as well, then please do pop them in capitals and I'll do my best to spot them. Although I'm noticing the chat is scrolling by really, really fast today. And there's almost 70 people here already, but we'll do my best to spot them. And mods in the chat, if I miss any, then please draw my attention to them. But if you want to pop them in capitals or either start with tagging me, the Hermit's Cave, so they highlight, that would be great. So as I said at the beginning, Chris, it feels like we've known you for a really long time. Now, looking at your channel, your first video was only at the end of August, so not even 3 months yet since you've been putting out content. But you're not a new face, are you? We've seen you for quite some time. So my first question really is, how did you discover that there was even an online tarot community for you to become a part of it?
2 words: Kelly Bear.
Kelly Bear?
Yeah, I was looking up this tarot deck. I was looking up the Witch's tarot deck. I had the bordered edition, and this is like the borderless one. This is an older one. And I just happened to be looking online for it, and when you search for something, one of the options that comes up is sometimes YouTube videos. So I clicked on this amazing person who drove the deck into the ground for good reasons. You know what I mean? It's a bit of a funny deck, to be honest, but it just made me laugh so much. It made me kind of want to look at it like get more into the kind of YouTube stuff, and from there it just like kind of spiraled. But that's actually going back like a long, long time ago. That's going back potentially around about when you first started. So I have been around for for a lot longer than you guys have even kind of known me. But yeah, that's how that was my first kind of step into the YouTube world. So it was.
So Kelly Bear, actually, I've spoken to her today because I don't think many days go by where Kelly and I don't speak. But she really wanted to be here, but it's her anniversary actually today. So she'd got some plans with her husband, as you can imagine she would do. But she was like, "I'm definitely going to be watching it back." So she's a fan of yours too. So that's really
Oh,
really
that's
cool.
lovely. That's really nice to know. Actually, it's like it's funny to hear when because she's like a celebrity to me. So it's funny to hear that like when she talks to me in chats and stuff, I'm like this wee shy schoolboy. She's
Yeah.
talking to me.
Well, Kelly was the first person I ever met in real life
Yeah,
from YouTube, and I had that sort of cognitive dissonance of like, oh wow, this is just mind blowing. When you actually meet someone and they're real in 3D and they give you a big hug, and because
yeah,
like you, Kelly Bear was one of the first channels I ever came across, and definitely the first British content creator in our YouTube world. So I was like, oh wow, and just was hooked. So that's lovely, and there's lots of love in the room. Lots of people saying that they really love Chris and your channel and your content and just your whole presence. So I hope you're feeling the love
yeah,
from.
definitely. That's really nice. Thank you, guys.
So can I ask what was? Well, firstly, it's kind of a two-part question. You said you've been around for what, nearly 4 years then, around the time I started a channel. Have you always used your name? Because Elemental Cartomancy was something that you came up with when you started doing content. So
Yeah,
would we just known you as Chris Kelly before that?
yeah. So that it was always that account I think that I used. Like always when I've been on kind of YouTube.
Yeah,
And I've still got that account, like, but I just don't. I just kind of don't. I'm not on it as much anymore. But yeah, and do you know, I probably even like kind of went into live chats and was chatting and stuff. I remember I used to go into Kelly Fitzgerald's live chats and stuff and speak to people um, but yeah, I just kind of phased in and out. Do you know that way?
yeah, yeah, I do.
Um,
And that's the thing, isn't it? And we've always said, you don't have to be a content creator to be a part of this community. And like, it's only a couple of months, as we said, that you started your channel, but you was just known. You was known within the community. And then when you did start a channel, it was like, oh wow, But we'd seen you a bit before that because you would do joint lives with people, and
that's right. Yeah.
that's quite unusual in as much as people appearing on other channels before having their own, but also starting out with lives. I mean, it's really good grounding. A lot of people, myself included, take a long time to even get to the point of doing a live. They'll start off, their content creators pre-recorded. So how did it happen? How did you suddenly get to be invited on and that sort of thing?
So I think it was just through being friends with people in the community. Obviously I started out like everyone else, like just kind of chatting in lives and stuff. I got to be quite friendly with a few people. Lucian at Cross Paths being one of them. We would chat and stuff, and Lucian and Dave used to do like kind of, I think at regular Wednesdays they used to do live readings. And I remember I once said, if you're ever kind of having guests on doing readings and stuff, then I would maybe think about doing it. And it was like a Wednesday kind of afternoon. I said this, and he was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it tonight." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, so I was just kind of thrown into it, and from there, it just kind of built, I guess. But
Yeah,
that's how it started. Um, so I've always kind of I said in my when I did my kind of welcome to Elemental Cartomancy video, my video where I kind of explained a bit about my channel. I kind of talk about how invaluable that was for me, you know, like actually being able to kind of dip my toe into the water before, you know,
Mm,
to see what I made of it. And I'm always like, I always say I'm really appreciative to like cross paths and to Robin as well, because I do lives with Robin and I still do.
yeah.
Um, to to those people for giving me that opportunity. And like you say, it is quite unusual and it's not something that you see very much, but it's something that I found really beneficial, and I've always said like I'm always kind of open for anyone who would want who would want that opportunity. I would like to pay that forward, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and like you say, if you can start off with doing lives, then it's really good grounding. How did you feel when you started your channel, hitting the record button then and doing a pre-recorded? Because I can relate to how it feels going from doing that and that initial, my finger was hovering over the record button for the first time, thinking, oh, I'm about to do this, because everybody like you, I'd been in the chat for about 6, 7 months, and everybody was like, oh, you should do a channel. I'm feeling really nervous, and and then just uploading it and trying not to think about it for a few hours. But then again, that nervousness that came after 6 or 7 months of doing that and then doing a live, you've had it in reverse. So did you still have that sort of nervousness about starting your own channel?
Oh yeah, a little bit. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you and Elle had to bully me into it, didn't you? No, I'm joking. But yeah, like, I still had that nervousness and I still had that kind of apprehension about doing pre-recorded videos, believe it or not. Um, because like you say, I had only ever done like gone live with people. And I was see what you just described. I was the exact same. I was like hovering over that button, and then I think I must have like stopped and started a good 4 times on my first video. That the VR to Gen, the balance the deck scales or something. I must have made a couple before it. So yeah, I was definitely like very nervous about it, but it's like you say, you just kind of swallow your pride, just kind of get over your nerves and just say, right, I'm doing this, and that's it, and upload it. And like because our community is such a loving, embracing, amazing bunch of people, like everyone, I feel as though I could have put out the worst video in the world. It could have been absolutely, and it may well be, but just because of the type of people that we are in this community, everyone just kind of, it's like they all just embraced me and made me feel good about myself. And so I would encourage anyone who's at that phase, who's not sure and who's nervous about it, just go for it, just do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Everyone is going to accept you and they're going to love it all the same.
Absolutely, and I don't think I've ever come across a community that is so supportive as well as encouraging. And it's just about taking that first plunge. What would you say you're most comfortable with then, Chris? Are you more comfortable going live and it's just out there, done, no editing, or are you more comfortable now with pre-recordings?
Uh, Comfortableness, I'm not sure. I think they're both quite different beasts, aren't they?
Yeah.
I really really enjoy lives because I love interacting with people. That's my thing. That I like to kind of have that back and forth, even if it is just seeing lots of comments scrolling in the chat. I really really like that. Whereas when you're doing a pre-recorded, it it's just a different dynamic. So I would say that I kind of enjoy lives maybe a wee bit more, but I would say I'm equally comfortable-ish doing both.
Yeah.
I think.
Cool. That's good to know. Yeah, I think I still feel more comfortable with pre-recorded, I think. And
Right.
for me, I just feel that if I can go back and cut something out that I'm not too happy with, then I will. I know I've got that option. Whereas with a live, it is what it is. And, although Jen, who I just seen in the chat, shared with me the other day that you can actually go and edit once a video's up on YouTube. Never knew that until this week. And I'm
Right.
thinking of all the moments But apparently it's not an easy process. So whether I will or not, I just kind of think, oh, it's done. You know, it was live
Yeah.
out there. So tell us a little bit then about the inspiration behind your channel name. So you've been in the community for quite a few years. You've chatted, you've been on people's live, and then came the thought of starting your channel. So firstly, what was the inspiration behind the channel name, and then what did you want to kind of achieve by being a content creator?
The channel name, so I love the idea of the elements, so I do. And I always have, not just from an esoteric or from a tarot spiritual point of view. Like, see, like watching sci-fi and things like that, things like the X-Men and, just anything like that. I've always loved the idea of the four elements and having sway over them and that kind of thing. So uh, the elements have always kind of been a fascination for me, from lots of different points of view. They like from a kind of tarot point of view, I could talk about the elements and their meanings and everything all day long. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? I love to kind of sit and chat about the elements. I was talking to Sandra on Clyde the other day, and I don't even think she asked me anything about it, but I ended up giving the poor woman a big spiel about the four elements, and I realised after I was like, sorry, and you didn't even ask for that, and I've just like kind of thrown it at you, but I love it. I've got this weird fascination with the elements, so that's why Elemental and Cartomancy, obviously, because I'm a card slinger. That's the kind of thing that I like to do.
yeah.
And sorry, what was the second half of your question, Simon?
The second half was kind of like when you took that plunge and you decided to create a channel, what you hope to get out of it. So I suppose it's kind of to those people who might be here and
Mhm.
don't know about your channel or the content. What could they expect if they come and give you a sub? Which I hope everybody will.
um, so I love to kind of have this interaction with people. So I do. I don't have in my everyday world, I don't have a tarot community. I don't really have anyone that I can sling cards with, that I can talk to about tarot, about any or anything like that. So it's a way for me to connect about this kind of stuff. Um, I love doing readings. Do you know, I love actually using the cards for the purpose for which they were intended. Do you know, I love slinging cards for people. I even love just kind of sitting having like a back and forth chat about the meanings of different cards and stuff. And I always thrive when I can learn something new that I hadn't realized before. It's just that it makes your brain go. Do you know what I mean? I really kind of enjoy that. So just being able to kind of do readings. That's kind of that's one of the things that I love to do, um, and kind of being able to inspire other people to kind of to do readings as well. Do you know what I mean? To like get that chat, get that ball rolling, get that chat going. Um, yeah, I think that's probably not a very um, eloquent way of explaining it, but yeah, I think that's
No, it is. And, people have put in the chat as well, and I have to agree, you're one of the most interesting people to listen to, and I'm not just saying it because I'm interviewing you. Um, just you've got a certain presence, and there's a few people in the community who have that sort of presence, but you're very captivating. The way you describe cards when you're giving readings, and you did one for me quite recently, a few weeks ago. You did a card reading for me, and it was perfect. And that
oh,
happens. I don't very often go to channels that offer live readings. I've got nothing against them, but there's lots out there where people are doing free readings and that sort of thing. But I don't know. It's just your presence. You've got an amazing accent. Everybody mentions that as well. But just the way you interpret the cards and the way that you're very much a storyteller as well. And I noticed you did an old tag recently, which was one of Chase's from Two of
yeah,
Our.
yeah,
Um, but the way that you describe the scenes and the cards, and then you overlay with the divinatory meaning, is just brilliant. So Yeah, it was eloquently put. You describe what you do really well, but and lots of people in the chat are agreeing.
Thank you so much, Simon. That's really, really nice of you to say. Even just a bit about how you enjoyed your reading, like it is like you'll know this as a reader yourself. It is really nice when you get that kind of feedback. But to have that feedback from someone like you, who we all look up to, I'm almost lost for words. So thank you so much for saying all that.
No, you're welcome. It's I don't blow smoke. You know, people who know me will know that it's genuine. It's really good. And people who haven't checked you out yet, if they do, you know, give your channel a sub, you'll see that it's just so good at reading cards. So
Oh, thank you.
okay, so let's go way back then. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your life. What was it like growing up? Were there any sort of spiritual influences? What was life like for you in the early days?
So I was born, raised, and I've grown up in Glasgow. I've lived in Glasgow in Scotland all my life. Um, so far as spiritual influences, like I say I was brought up a Roman Catholic. Brought up's probably quite I need to use that term loosely because like my parents weren't like they weren't particularly religious. My parents didn't really go to church or anything like that. But that was that was the religion that I was brought up in. I was baptized a Catholic. Um, and yeah, both my grands have been quite devout Catholics all their life. So I've always had that kind of thing around about me, but it's never been forced on me. I've been really quite lucky in that way, I think, compared to the experiences that a lot of people have with religion. Um, but that's really I think that's the only spiritual influence that I could say that I've had growing up. Apart from, of course, working with these amazing things, these cards. I came to the tarot quite early on, so I did. I think I was about 8 or 9 when I got my first deck of cards. So I suppose from that point of view, that has been an influence to me growing up. You know, but yeah, I've kind of forgotten what I was trying to say there, like what I was trying to answer. So you'd asked me about kind of growing up in spiritual influence and stuff, didn't you? So
Yeah.
um,
So,
yeah,
you know how you said that you've always lived in Glasgow?
uh-huh.
Is that I take it that's through choice because now as an adult you're in your own home, you're still there. So
Yeah,
what is it? I mean, I got close to Glasgow. I was staying by a little, I say little, it's huge for me, but apparently in Scotland it was a little lock. But in between Glasgow and Edinburgh, and I chose for the one full day that I had there to go to Edinburgh.
mhm,
And it's a beautiful, beautiful country, Scotland. And I only, from the moment I crossed the border in the car, leaving England, going past that, welcome to Scotland, the scenery was breathtaking. And on my home on tour, I actually pulled the car over the side of the motorway and just filmed, said, look at this, I've just arrived
yeah.
on the Scottish border. And I didn't even go further north, which apparently is even more breathtaking. But what is it about Glasgow in particular? Is there a spiritual community there? Are you involved in it? Do you go to any development circles? What keeps you in Glasgow?
The if there is a spiritual community, I'm not involved in it and I'm not aware of it. I mean, there are like, sure, there's what's it called? The Spiritualist Church. So people go there to see mediums and psychics and stuff. But I've never actually been, so I'm not a part of the physical community here in Glasgow. If there is really one.
Mm,
Um, I guess what keeps me here is I'm a bit of a home bird. Um, like I say, I've always lived here. Um, I got my first job when I still lived at home, and then I moved. So I went to uni in Glasgow. I moved out and into a flat over in the kind of the west end of Glasgow. It's kind of like, but it's almost like I've followed my job kind of thing, which is quite depressing when you verbalize that and think about it that way. But I've always kind of lived in a place that's convenient for where I work. I suppose apart from here, actually, this place, we found this place after I had started driving, so it wasn't really as important that I was like kind of close to work and was able to get there easily. So yeah, no, I suppose this is the first place that's actually we've selected purely nothing to do with like my work, just purely because we like the house and where it is and stuff.
Yeah. We've certainly got people who might ascend on you en masse because everybody's saying that Scotland is definitely on their bucket list for after the pandemic. So yeah, and people are going to come up.
Oh, that would be exciting.
Yeah. So have you been to England?
Yeah, yeah, I love going down to London. London is mainly where I've been in England. My best friend is originally from Bath. Wait, actually, she's originally from Helensburgh up in Scotland, but she grew up in Bath. So
Oh,
I've been down to Bath to visit her family and stuff. Um, and I've been to Birmingham once. But other than that, I've been to London a good 3 times, I think. I love
yeah,
it down there.
cool. And are you planning on coming to Glastonbury next year?
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. With with the situation. That I was going to say that C word that we don't want to say, but that's quite misleading. Um, like the pandemic. Like we'll see what's happening with that. I would certainly love to. And it'll be quite interesting because like when you were saying a bit earlier on about when you first met Kelly Bear, and it was like quite maybe not overwhelming, but you kind of get that way where it's, oh, she's real, she's here in person. The idea of doing that with a whole bunch of people at once
Yeah.
that you feel like are like close friends and stuff, and you're just meeting them for the first time. I would imagine that would be quite overwhelming. Um, but yeah, I would certainly love to, but I guess we'll just need to kind of wait and see what happens.
But it's really interesting as well how quickly, even though you have that first moment, how quickly that passes and you just feel really comfortable with like-minded people. It doesn't
Yeah.
take more than that, those first initial few minutes. Kelly and I met at Watkins, and then the ice was really broken because I knocked over a whole display and all the cards and everything tumbled to the ground. So there we both were on our hands and knees, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm starstruck. And we just went for a coffee and we just sat and we just played the cards and chatted, and everybody else I've met since, it's just been great. But well, I hope you make it, because it would be great to meet you in real life as well. Although I feel
Yeah.
like I know you, and that's another great thing about this medium. We just feel like we know each other so well anyway, don't we? But
I know exactly. Some of the people that I talk to, every day now are people that I've met through this community. I've got really close friends, and if if I need to talk to somebody about something, you know, um, like I've gotten really close to Justin. Me and him are kind of really close friends, and if I've got an issue, 9 times out of 10, I'll probably message Justin and be like, listen to this kind of thing. But so it really is amazing how you can form those close bonds,
and no
despite
matter
never
where
actually
you
having
are in
met
the
someone.
world, yeah, yeah, no
Yeah.
matter where they are on the planet, yeah, it's brilliant. Okay, so you told us a little bit about growing up. What was your first tarot memory? Can you pinpoint a point in your history where tarot was first sort of, or you first saw it, or your interest was first sparked?
I think it was so when when we were young, my mum worked in a pub, and the pub used to put on tarot nights every now and then.
Cool.
Um, so my mum would get her cards read at the tarot night, and then she would come home and she would tell us everything that she'd been told. And I was fascinated with it. Like I loved it. I thought it was dead interesting how these people could like kind of obviously like back then and probably still to this day when pubs do that kind of thing, it's all about fortune telling and telling you your future, which I'm not looking down on. Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of I take quite a lax view of that kind of stuff and I quite enjoy it. Um, but yeah, just the idea of somebody being able to kind of look into these magical cards and tell you, you can imagine perceiving that as an 8-year-old, like being able to look into these cards and tell you what's going to happen. Like, I just
Yeah.
thought that was amazing. I just wanted a bit of that. So yeah, that was how I first got introduced to the concept.
Okay. And then you mentioned, you kind of touched on it about 10, 15 minutes ago, and you said about your first tarot deck. So how did that come about then? How did you get your first tarot deck, and what was it?
So we went to Waterstones. So like my mum had said, or I had said to my mum, like, oh, I would love to do that, and she'd say, well, why don't we get a wee tarot deck? And from there it was decided. So one day we went into town and went to Waterstones, and we were looking on the shelves and couldn't really find anything. So we went up to the counter and asked the man behind the counter, and he was an absolute like saint. So he was brilliant. Like this is I think how everybody's first kind of tarot buying experience should be. He basically just said, right, okay. So he took out all the decks essentially that they had, took them all out and put them on the counter in front of us, and then he started asking me questions. Do you like colourful pictures? What kind of stuff do you like? How do you? Like, I can't even remember what the questions were, but every time he asked me a question and I would answer him, he would take some decks off the table. So he likes colourful pictures, then right, let's get the Marseille decks off the table, that kind of thing. And he basically eventually narrowed it down to 2 decks, and said, you take your pick between these two. And I just went, I think I just went with my gut at the time, and that was how I ended up with my first deck.
Wow. And just some breaking news, and then we'll get straight back to the interview. So,
Oh,
have you just seen it? So,
yeah.
we won't dwell on it, but I just want to put that out there. And yeah, all right. So,
Happy days. What you mean they didn't just count the votes that were for the other person? Surprise, surprise.
I'm guessing is just one Pennsylvania, and that's decided it. So that's my guess. But I just wanted to. I hope you didn't mind me just putting that there. But
No, of course not. No, that makes me happy because obviously this is the thing again about this community is we're a lot of our close friends now are over in the States, so it affects so much of our kind of the people closest to us. So no, that makes me really happy to see that.
yeah, absolutely. I could cry, but yeah. So, and I hope I didn't miss it. Did you say what the deck was that you chose for your first one when you
I,
explained everything?
I didn't, but it's this one. I know it's not your favourite, um, but it was this one. So it was
Oh,
the
yeah,
original Rider-Waite tarot deck, Rider-Waite Smith one. Um, I've always said I've said a couple of times I wish I could remember what the other deck was that was on the table. I've got a funny feeling it was the Universal because I seem to remember the box being kind of white.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I can't really. I'm never going to be able to be sure, which is quite annoying. But yeah, that this was my first.
Right. And is it that actual copy?
No, no,
No.
it's not. Um, so I don't actually have the very first tarot deck, like actual tarot deck that I had. I don't have it anymore. Um, and I don't know how I've managed to not have it. It just seems to have gotten lost or fallen away from me somewhere along the way. Um, but I quickly like reacquired that deck, and I still have that. That's the one that I've like kind of chopped the borders off and stuff. So this is probably like kind of my the one that I've had the longest, but
Mhm.
it's not the actual um very first one that I had. So no, it's not.
It's quite a common story though, you know. So many people I've interviewed always say, I don't really know whatever happened to that
Mhm.
deck, you know. Mine too. You know, I've got one that I bought off eBay, which is probably around the same time in terms of its data and everything. But yeah, it's just they just disappear, don't they? There's a
Yeah.
portal somewhere where or tarot.
I know, I know. I remember I used to keep it in. I made this box in first year of school. So first year of high school for me, I would have been about 11 or 12. And in kind of technical woodwork, I made this box. It was the first thing I ever made. And that was what I kept it in. But the box and the deck have just disappeared.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's a
So
shame, but
yeah, it is, but then things happen for a reason, don't they? And it's great when you can get them back. It might not be the same one, but you know, we still get the same sort of feels when we are able to get our first decks back.
yeah.
How would you say your taste, if it has, but how would you say your um taste in tarot has changed from your first deck to your most recent deck in terms of genre or systems or colors or whatever?
Do you know, it's really funny because like I love like kind of the light seers is probably my ideal deck. Well, Mendy calls it the Ugg boots, so I've started calling my light seers deck my Ugg boots. But that's probably like my artistically like color palette, you know, all that kind of thing. That's probably like my ideal deck and my ideal art style. But it's funny because see when it comes down to brass tacks, I don't think for me that doesn't really seem to matter because you know how the other night I was reading with that Mibramig Magical Tarot.
Yeah,
Um, See before I'd read with that, I looked at it and thought it's always going to be special to me because Sandy got it for me for my birthday. But I looked at it and thought that's never a deck I'm going to enjoy reading with. And then I actually really, really did, you
yeah,
know, and I've had that experience a couple of times both ways around where you look at a deck and you think that is going to be the deck for me. You know, I'm never going to need any other deck. It's just going to be that one. And then you get it and you put those cards down on the table and you're like, okay, fair enough. It's you know, it's a tarot deck and it does the job, but I'm not really feeling it. And then sometimes you look at something and you're like, "Ah, I'd never buy that for myself, but let's give it a whirl. And then you put the cards on the table and it's like speaking so loud and you know, so there just seems to be this kind of spark thing that happens, I think, and it's not always you don't always expect it. So, um, in terms of my taste, I've kind of learned. I'm kind of learning to fall away from that as much and more just trust the connection between me and the cards themselves. I think, which is it sounds like a really wishy-washy thing to say now. Actually, now I'm saying it out loud, but yeah,
yeah. And it might not always be something obvious either. You know, I've been very surprised when I've either been gifted a deck or I've been kind of unsure. So I think, well, I'll take a punt and I'll get it. And then I've opened it up and I've had a reaction to it that I never thought in a million years I'd have. I've initially just looking at it and going through it, or by doing an interview and an interview spread or my first reading. And you know, sometimes they just completely take you by surprise, and it's not due to just the fact that it's fantastic art or certain use of color or a
mm,
particular system. It's just the deck's character overall, isn't it, that
yeah,
you have
yeah,
that reaction to, and you can't always say, well, I only like decks like this, you know,
yeah,
because that shuts you down to so many other, you know, possibilities, doesn't it?
yeah, absolutely.
So again, you spoke a bit about, you know, your kind of upbringing and in terms of religious upbringing. Do you identify in any way now by following a particular spiritual path or belief system?
No, I don't. I don't define it. Um, I don't know. There's just this thing in my mind, and it's probably wrong to say, but when you put a label on something, when you define it, you're almost limiting it. I feel, and I know it doesn't have to be like that, you know, because well, look at you. You define yourself as a pagan Buddhist, and you're not limited in any way. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, no, I don't. I don't. Maybe I've just not found the right. label for me, but I don't really feel like I need one kind of thing. So I certainly don't define myself spiritually unless like tarot reader, like card slinger, unless we can make that a spiritual path, then no, I don't think I do.
Yeah. I've just seen a comment from Sue. She said, I used to say that I said I didn't like collage decks, and I brought three. I was the same. I was exactly the same, and then I bought the Muse Tarot, and then I was gifted one quite recently, and the name's gone right out my head, but it came like 2 weeks ago, and it was a gift from the lovely Kimberly, and I absolutely love it. So again, we should never say should never say
Never say never.
yeah. So let's look at life now then. So we talked about your past a little bit. So you're a gay male and you're about to be married to Sandy, who you've mentioned.
Yeah.
How did you meet, and what does Sandy feel about your love of tarot?
Me and Sandy met online, so we did. So another tick for online. Yeah, we met online. We chatted a bit. We decided to meet up. We had. Do you know what? It's funny. I was just talking about me and Sandy's first date last night to Justin because we had like an amazing first date. We kind of almost spent a good bit of the day together. We met up. We went to Starbucks. We then went, for a walk. Then we came back a walk, and we're talking a few hours later now. And we went to, I think it was Burger King. And so the reason I was talking about it is because sometimes we'll replicate that first date. We'll kind of do all those things again. It's just a wee nice thing that we like to do every now and then. But yeah, that was how we met. And he's not Sandy's a gamer. He loves online gaming, so he's a very online person. He's got a lot of online friends in the gaming community. But he's not particularly spiritual. For someone who isn't though, he's the most supportive partner I could ever ask for. Well, you all know, he bought me those 3 decks for my birthday. He's never ever kind of tried to shut me down. He's never tried to say like, oh, it's let's stop doing that. Just because he doesn't particularly, it doesn't resonate with him. He's actually always encouraged me. Like if I'm sitting pondering over a deck, he'll be the one to say, just go for it. Do you know what I mean? Just buy it if you want it. Yeah, he's pretty amazing in that way, to be honest, because it's easy to be all for something when it resonates with you, when you believe in it, but to be supportive when it doesn't really resonate with you, that's pretty amazing, I think.
And what else can you ask for in a relationship when somebody is totally supportive? Because they get it, get that it's important to you, an important aspect of your life. So therefore, they cherish that as much as you do, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So, have you set a date? Seem to remember you said you had set a date for your wedding.
We are originally. Well, I say originally, it's still the official date, the 20th of February, 21. So actually coming up to it. But because of everything that's going on, we've had to put a wee backup plan in place. So the alternative date, let's call it, is the 8th of January 22.
Okay.
And do you know what I did? I'd said, so we've got like a kind of wedding email address for the RSVPs, and I'd went on to that and thought, right, okay, I'm going to have to explain to everyone. So I sent out the email to all of the people who'd RSVP'd saying, right, this is the situation. We've got the alternative date, and the alternative date is, and did I not say the 8th of January 21? So like my mother-in-law, Sandy's mum, messaged me and was like, oh my god, like why are you bringing it forward? I was like, oh, I'm trying not to swear. Oh no, I was like, oh crap, like wrong day. Oops, I mean 2022. So yeah, I think I gave a few people a bit of a fright that day, but yeah, the 8th of January 22 is the alternative. So it's looking more and more like we're going to be going for the alternative. If nothing else, I'm trying to lose weight for my wedding. It's not really happening at the moment, so if I want to be the perfect slender me, then I think I'm going to have to go for the later one. But yeah, it's looking more like we're going to have to go with that one.
Yeah. And is it a winter wedding you definitely want? I noticed that you're going with like February or January. Are those, is that time of the year significant, or because I mean the virus is probably less likely going to be as prevalent in the hot summer months, are they? I just wondered if there's a significance about the winter.
Not so much, to be honest. I'm happy to get married whenever. Sandy more so than me, but we want it to be a Saturday, because we don't really want people having to kind of take days off work and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And from there, it was more down to when the venue had dates free, because we're really happy with the venue that we've found and the package that they offer and stuff like that. So it's more circumstantial down to that, I think. But like I say, I could get married anytime, and
Yeah.
I would be happy.
Cool. And Orsi says, what's going to be the theme of the wedding? Is there going to be a theme, or we don't seem to do themes as much here, do we?
No, not so much. There isn't like a set theme. There's maybe like kind of wee bits and bobs that are themed, and it's kind of like there's stuff that we're not saying too much about. But I mean, you've all seen, you would have seen the wedding invites, wouldn't you? They were like kind of Harry Potter Marauders map themed.
Yeah.
Remember I was showing them one time. I can't even remember when, but so like there's like kind of wee bits and bobs that are themed, and the cake is kind of themed really nicely. Sarah's asking will there be kilts?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, there will indeed, Sarah. We're both wearing kilts, and we've both picked our own tartan. So we'll be wearing different kilts, and Sandy's side of the family will be wearing his tartan, and my side of the family will be wearing my tartan.
How
So
cool.
yeah,
That's
it's
really
exciting.
brilliant. Okay, well, whenever it is, congratulations, and I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will go swimmingly when the day finally comes. So yeah,
Yeah.
congratulations for all of us.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
okay, so let's just talk a little bit more about tarot then. So, do you have a particular preference to tarot systems? And I know you've recently on your channel done comparisons between Marseille and RWS, etc., and even the dreaded T word's been mentioned. But do you have a particular preference, and if so, why?
So it's funny because I think when I actually read, my style, like my interpretations, maybe lean more towards the Marseille kind of way, because I like to be quite free about, I tend to be annoyed about cards like, for example, the Three of Swords, when it's the heart with the three swords, like when I don't think that it always necessarily has to be a negative card. So, in terms of being like interpreting the cards, I think I tend to be more Marseille. But from the point of view that I actually really like scenic cards, I wouldn't say that I'm too fond of just pips. And I know there's Marseille isn't just pips, it is scenic, like because you've got flowers and all that. But I like proper scenes in the cards that's what I feel I can really pull the most from. So I think I'm like a nice like a mixture between RWS and Marseille, and sometimes sometimes it's not that what you're pulling from, what I pull from the cards isn't even anything particular to do with the meanings. It's more just what I'm seeing in the cards in front of me. Just how the pictures fit together, how the story fits together. Um, so I don't know. I think I'm a bit of a mishmash.
Yeah, yeah, and why not? And talking to mishmashes, have you seen the new deck that's out, the Marseille Wait?
Yeah, yeah, I have. Justin sent me a video of it, and then like 2 days later, you'd put up a walkthrough of it. So yeah, it actually does look really nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I've yet to do a reading with it because I only got
Yeah,
it yesterday, and I'm still obsessing at the minute over my Witch's Wisdom. But I've put it in a box actually on my sacred space, so I can use it in a few days. But I think it's fab. I love the fact that it doesn't look like two decks just put together. It flows with the art style, with the everything being redrawn and having the same sort of artistic
yeah,
flare all the way through. It's
yeah.
okay. So, what do you look out for, Chris, when you decide you're going to get a deck, or you see a deck and you think, I've got to have it? What is it about it? What are some of the things that draws you to a deck?
I mean, surface level, first impressions, I guess the color palette. I like nice bright colors that work well together, a nice wide color palette. So, if a deck's really bright and got nice colors, but there's only three colors, then I'm probably going to be like, maybe not for me. Don't know. There's obviously some. I'll maybe look at the cards, look at certain cards, some cards, and see what I make of them. Where I can, and that'll maybe determine whether I'm going to kind of want to get a deck or not. But again, it's quite hard to say. It's like kind of like what I'd said about what I'd said before. It's a lot about just there's a spark. Do you know what I mean? And it's hard sometimes to actually define it.
Yeah. And Jen's just asked, what deck was you talking about? I looked away for a minute. We're talking about the Lataro di Marseille weight. So it's kind of like a hybrid deck between the two systems, because we were just talking about preference over systems. So I get that as well. I think if I was asked that question about what draws me to a deck, it's going to be different with every single deck. But for some people, like Becca, she always says it's for her, it's the colours. The colours have to do it.
Yeah.
I just wondered if you had a preference like that. What's your collection looking like in terms of size and genre? Is it quite eclectic, or is it a large collection, a small collection?
I would say it's quite eclectic, yeah. Purely because I've been collecting them for, well, how long have I been reading tarot? 20 something years. So it's quite a long range of time. And when you think about the fact that I was 8 or 9 when I got my first deck, so like for me as a person, development wise, I'm a different person to what I was back then. So, and I was into different things than what I am now. So, I would say it's probably quite eclectic, quite diverse. And yeah, I think I'm nearing that 50. I'm going to do the tag response to your milestone
Oh, right.
when I get to 50, but I don't think I'm quite there yet. I need to update my spreadsheet. Jen, I've got a spreadsheet.
Oh, you're very organised. You might be surprised when Becca was doing a walkthrough of her collection, and she thought in her mind she was nearing 50. And I think she ended up saying she got something like 77 or something like that. So you might be surprised when you update your spreadsheet that it's grown more. We tend to forget decks we bought, don't we?
I know, I know.
So it's
Yeah, no, I think I'm between 40 and 45 right now. Because I know I was about 35 when I did the balance the deck scales. And I think I've bought around 10 since then.
yeah. Wow. So what are your thoughts as well? Because I would say it gets bad press, but there's often a lot of chatter in certain aspects or areas of the community about people who collect decks. Do you see any issues with it if somebody amasses a lot of decks, or what you're for and against, or do you
I
have it?
I think, as long as you're kind of looking after yourself and I think overall it's got nothing to do with me. Do you know what I mean? So there's no reason for me to impose my views about it, at all. Like I, but as long as you're not like kind of like putting yourself into debt to buy, 10 blushing fools a week, whose business is it what you do? Do you know what I mean? If that's your thing, you're not out, drinking every night and doing drugs and spending your money and all those things. There's a lot worse things you could spend your money on than buying these like pieces of art, as far as I'm concerned. So I think it's amazing,
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm all for it, and I'm against people who would be not for it. If you know what I mean, like I feel quite strongly like if it doesn't affect you and it's not doing you any harm, then don't feel the need to kind of to
Well,
impose that on other people.
Yeah, well said. So have you got a deck that you've got your eye on, or is there something that's at the top of your wish list? You like something you just love to get your hands on?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure, to be honest. There's a couple that are in my and on my wish list and stuff. Um, I really like the look of Tarot of the Divine. Um, not just as a tarot deck, but see because it kind of links in with all the stories and stuff.
Yeah.
Because as you'll have seen, I got that Grimm's Brothers fairy tale book for my birthday.
Okay.
So I'm quite into all that kind of stuff, and the fact that I could learn more about the stories from using a tarot deck, and I could learn more about tarot from the stories, that I really like the idea of that. So that's something that I'm kind of, I've it's been in my wish list for a while, and I've got my eye on it. Yeah, I think that's probably the most.
And it really I'm seeing that sort of interlinking now, and how that comes across in your readings as well.
Mhm.
And what about the fairy tale tarot? Have you got that from Baba Studios? I know it's out of print, but it pops up every so often.
It's not one that I've got, no.
In,
Um, it's funny because it's not one that I've seen very much of, to be honest with you. Um, Tell me about it. Is that one that you got that someone gifted to you recently? Um,
I was gifted it twice. I couldn't
yeah.
believe it in a very short space of time. Baba Studios released it a few years ago. It went out of print, and it's not one they're ever bringing back. Karen is a friend. We talk and we message each other and stuff. And I've begged her, but before I could get my hands on it, and she just said no, because they're moving away from tarot. Um,
Yeah.
so after they've done the bringing back the Victorian Romantic for a third release, and then they're completely redoing Bohemian Baroque Cats, and then that's it. So they're not re-releasing any, because quite a few, other than perhaps Bohemian Gothic, they've done 2 releases because they've released them with a cold stamping edition. So they did it
Right,
with
okay, yeah.
Victorian Romantic, etc. But yeah, they're not bringing it back. But it's beautiful, and it's each card is a fairy tale, and because their books are so well written as well. Karen writes the book, and Alex does all the artwork.
Mhm.
Um, you get all the fairy tale in there,
Right, okay.
the origins and everything. But
Yeah.
their decks are just stunning. So
I mean, it sounds like you're kind of enticing me into a deck that's out of print, Simon. To be honest with you, you're being a bit of a tease, if I may say so. But yeah, no, that does sound lovely.
But that's the thing with wish lists, mine's the Pame. It's probably never going to happen. We have to have a wish list, don't we? We have to have that unobtainable dream deck just to keep us.
Yeah,
Uh,
intention setting,
sorry.
intention setting.
Yes. Yeah. So one of the questions I did want to ask you, and again, you kind of answered this or started to answer it a little while back, but how, if somebody was to ask you, how does the tarot work? How would you answer it? Do you see it more as a psychological tool, or a instrument for divination, or somewhere between those two?
Uh, well, I like to kind of use it as both. Um, if I was to get right down into the microscopic aspects of it, I would probably, well, I think it works in a myriad of ways, but I suppose the two main ways I see it working, if I was to explain this, I've got one of my best friends is like a PhD in physics, and won't hear of anything that's woo or not scientifically sound, right? So if I was to explain it to him, I would probably say, well, you know, going inwards, it kind of inspires me. When I pull cards, it makes me think about things. It's like that kind of conceptual blending idea that Vincent Petici talks about. It's an unrelated stimulus, but it just kind of gives you ideas and inspires you to kind of go about things in a new way. And then from like a kind of future casting point of view, I think that we all to a certain degree, walk about with our heads up our backsides. Some a lot more than others. Me probably more than most. Um, and I think if somebody says to you, somebody says to you the day before, watch out for this thing, that's something to watch out for. You're automatically going to be more aware of that. So where you would normally be kind of walking about with your head in the clouds, you're going to become locked onto that. When it does happen, I think that there's lots of opportunities that kind of passes by and fly around about us every day in our everyday lives, and it's not until you're consciously or subconsciously kind of it's brought into your sphere that actually you pick up on it. So that's how I would probably define it to someone like that. But I mean, really, for me personally, in my everyday practice, I do love to kind of I know a lot of people don't agree with it, but I love the fortune teller kind of side of it. If people don't mind me using that word, that kind of term to describe it, you know, I like it, and I like a bit of both. I like to use it as a psychological tool, and I like to use it as a tool for I like to kind of hitting the desk here. I like to kind of meld them together and just create something.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can't deny, can we? No matter what our views are, when we've done readings, either for ourselves or someone else, then we get that feedback that something that was predicted actually happened. I don't know how the tarot works. I don't, I've got lots of different theories about collective consciousness and all that kind of stuff, and the whole sort of quantum element of it. But I don't know. But it's certainly something I've come to trust, and we trust things when we have the evidence that we can trust things. We put our faith into something, I should say, when we've got that sort of confirmation that trust is there. And it's a relationship that you build with the tarot, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you see that as something that's a mirror that reflects back to you something that's happening on a deeper level, or something that gives you guidance, and you follow it, and therefore what it predicted is happening. That's down to you. Who knows? But I just know it's a tool that's important to me, and the jury's out on the woo side of it. So
it's about the experience, isn't it? At the end of the day, like when it comes down to it, life is for experiencing and for living. If else here, you're about to get another Plato's cave story analogy, but like I think we're all just like kind of captive in Plato's cave. We're all just perceiving the divine like shadows on the wall, and we can all say, "Oh, we think that looks like a bird. We think that's this." We're we're never going to know for sure. We're never going to fully understand it. No one's ever going to be able to tell you definitively this is how that thing works. The important thing is that we experience life through it. That's what we're using it for at the end of the day, regardless of how it works. So it's the experience of it for me. And one day when we're freed from the cave, we're going to get to go outside and see what was actually making the shadows. But until then, I think what's the important thing is how we experience it, and that we make the most of it.
Absolutely. Jesse said, I've just noticed how it's gone dark behind Chris. It was light when we started. So we started at 4 p.m. in the UK, and it's 5:05 now, but that is the time where it was already starting to go dark, actually, for me anyway, at 4 p.m. I'd already got all the lights on, and Chris had too. But yeah, it's when people are watching other people in different time zones, and it's strange. So the same person who might be asking you, how does the tarot work, Chris? If they're saying to you, I'm interested in this, what advice would you give them in terms of starting out? What sort of deck would you recommend? Is there a book that you think is great for somebody who's just starting out learning the tarot?
I think for one thing, they just need to get their hands on a bunch of decks. So, if it was someone close to me, I would probably say, come on in, have at it, have a look through and see what resonates with you. Because ultimately, I think that it's about that spark again, isn't it? It's about having that connection. I think asking what are the people into? Are you into like kind of pictures and stuff like that? But not just that. Like these are 78 cards that we need to learn. So what kind of learner are you? do you learn through, you know, images, or are you a very kind of regimented, you know, learner where like numerology plus elements would work for you? So if, for example, you're that kind of learner, then I might recommend like a Marseille type structure because that might be better for that particular person. Um, so I think it depends on the person what I would recommend, but definitely I would say, right, you need to look through decks and see what, you know, what you like, what works for you.
Yeah, yeah. And any books that you think are a good kind of starter book?
That's
Did you have
interesting.
a book? Did you kind of buy a book, or did you learn intuitively?
So when you mean when I very first got my first deck?
Yeah,
Um,
I know
no, so
you was a kid, like, but it was when you started to really study the tarot.
so when I got my first deck, it was just a little white book, and then someone got me a deck for Christmas, the Jonathan D one, the one that I did my kind of first live with, and I got this book with it, and this is quite a decent wee book. It's certainly a lot better than any little white book. But when I first started to really study it, I'm not sure. I mean, I would Rachel, you know what I think about Rachel Pollock. Do you know what I mean? Like any Rachel Pollock book, really. Um, I don't actually have it, but I think Tarot Wisdom is supposed
Yeah,
to be a really good book for learning from. Um, and I'm reading 78 Degrees of Wisdom, but I don't know if I would recommend that to a beginner because I think it could be a bit overwhelming. You know, just in the way that it describes you know, it's overwhelming for me, and I've been doing this for 20 odd years. So, um, yeah, probably something like Tarot Wisdom, or you know, one of the other kind of brilliant big books that she's done.
yeah. I smiled because my first grown-up tarot book, because I mine was just getting the Tarot Bible years ago, which I still, you know, I think for a cheap, inexpensive book that you can get from the works is brilliant for getting the keywords and the phrases and the general meanings down. But my first kind of grown-up tarot book was 78 Degrees of Wisdom, and everybody
Yeah,
was, I was, didn't have a channel, but I was chatting, and everybody was like, "Oh no, I wouldn't start with that book," but I did, and I don't know. I think that's where I first started to fall in love with Rachel Pollitt because of how
yeah,
she describes her intro into the tarot and everything, and
yeah,
I adored it. But I do get it that some people have been a little bit intimidated by it. But
yeah.
yeah,
Do you know what, actually what's quite good? I've got this wee book. Um, this is quite good. Secrets of the Tarot.
oh, I've got.
Um,
Let me put you on full screen a second, just so we can have a close-up look of it.
yeah, this is quite a good wee book. And if I kind of flip through it for you,
So
it's
it's
got like kind of
for Marseille decks because that's got the one JJ Swiss on the front, hasn't it?
it has, but like it's got all different. I'm trying to do this in such a way that you can see. It's got all
Uh,
different decks in it. Um, so you can see there.
wow.
And then for each kind of, it goes through them in the number. So it'll do the aces and, you know, goes through the majors. And I'm trying to find here. Yeah, so like there, for example, it's showing the fours from the universal Waite-Smith.
Yeah.
You know, then it'll show the fives from the dreaded Thoth. Um, you know, sixes from the Morgan Greer. You know, so it does that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's not for any one kind of deck, I would say. It's that's a really good book, and it's got some good information on, you know, spreads, and if you want to kind of look after your cards in a particular way, you know, like kind of wrapping them in silk and all that kind of thing. It even tells you a wee bit about crystals to use. It's a great wee book, and for the size of it, you know, it's quite a handy
Yeah.
wee
So
thing.
what's the title and author?
So Secrets of Tarot.
Secret
Uh,
of Tarot.
Yeah, by Annie Lionette.
Cool. I'll look that up. I do love those little pocket books or ones you could just throw in your bag
Yeah.
and I like it because even though I basically learned the RWS with Tarot Bible,
Mm.
every little book that you get, you'll get different nuances and different, because it's a different author and they're coming to it from their understanding of it. So even if you think, well, you know, I've learned the tarot, I still keep buying all these little books just to see, you know, those little changes and nuances that I mentioned.
Yeah.
So do you have any other kind of spiritual tools that you use? I mean, you are Elemental Cartomancy, so I'm assuming you use other cards like oracles, Lenormands, and stuff like that. But do you work with anything else like runes or oghams or pendulums? Anything in your spiritual toolkit?
Not really, to be honest with you. I have some crystals. Don't really use them though. They sit in a box. Although I've got this wee onyx egg that's now called Sandra, and you'll know why that is if you watch me when I was on Hen's channel, because we were kind of going through my crystals and saying what's that, because I didn't know any of them. And I think Jackie said when I held up the egg, she said Sandra, meaning Sandra, you're good with stones, tell him. But I was like, Sandra. So now it's Sandra, and it sits in my wee dooket where I've got like kind of my my lantern and my incense holder and stuff. So Sandra sits out, but the rest of them are still just sitting in that box.
And I'm sure, knowing Sandra, she won't be offended at all as being referred to as an egg.
I hope not.
Okay, so just before I've got a few kind of deeper questions I like to finish on, but just before we start to bring this to an end, so you know, I normally try and keep them at about an hour and a half. If anybody in the chat has any questions that you want me to put to Chris, then please pop them in capitals and I will look out for them. So, if you could go back to 16-year-old Chris and give any piece of advice or have a conversation with your 16-year-old self, what would that be?
No, I don't know actually. Probably like don't take any notice. Try not like kind of. It's difficult.
Any notice of what people talking negatively or?
Yeah. Don't care so much about what people think of you. Just be yourself, kind of thing. And you know things are going to turn out fine. I don't know why, but you know, before I was in a relationship with Sandy, I kind of had it in my head that I could just never see myself being with someone else, you know. And I always thought, you know, I'd be quite surprised if I did manage to like, have that connection with someone. So you know, I would kind of assure myself, like, you know, it's going to be fine. Things are going to turn out good. And don't worry so much about what the shitty people around about you say and do and how they make you feel, I guess.
Yeah, cool. Couple of questions that's come in before I get to my final one. So you kind of talked about crystals anyway, but Lisa's asking, do you work with crystals and tarot together? Do you pair them up or anything like that?
No, I don't. To be honest, if I learned more about crystals and their properties, and it may well be something that I would do, but at the moment I don't. I don't pair them up. I've got I've got Sandra that sits out in my wee dooket here that you can see. Um, and that's all. The rest of them sit in a box, and I don't really do anything with them.
Yeah, and it's not appearing on StreamYard, but it's here on my iPad, so I'll read it out. But Lisa says, oh no, sorry, not that one. B says, do you like white or black pudding? Isn't white pudding an Irish delicacy rather than a Scottish delicacy?
Remind me what is in white pudding, because I don't think I've ever had it.
Yeah, I think that's Irish. I know that my friend who's half Irish, goes to Ireland quite a bit and used to bring me back some white pudding. But
is it got like raisins or something in it actually? Because I hate raisins and currants and things, like can't stand them. So black pudding anyway. Black pudding is the answer. I do like a bit of black pudding.
Yeah. And I suppose everybody's thinking this as well when we're talking black pudding, but and delicacies. What about haggis? Are you a haggis fan? Do you like it?
I mean, I can eat it. I actually prefer vegetarian haggis to normal haggis. Um, like I can have it, but it's not something that we have often. And I could never eat a load of it. It's nice and chicken. Is it Balmoral chicken? Is that what that's called? When you've got like kind of chicken stuffed with haggis,
Well,
and wrapped in bacon. That's beautiful.
haggis here. I don't think I've
Right,
ever seen it in our supermarket. That's why when I went to Edinburgh, me and Elaine went to the local pub. I had to have neeps and tatties with haggis.
right,
So I could say that I've had it. It was the first time in my life, 47 years of age,
right,
48, sorry, and I was having haggis for the first time ever. But I really liked it.
right,
Really liked it. Yeah.
right. Okay, that's good.
And what is the best fancy Scottish whiskey? I only know Glenfiddich, so you probably know.
Oh gosh, that's a question from my uncle. If my uncle could talk the ears off you about whiskey, and I mean that in the as close to literally as I can mean it. He would bore you to death talking about whiskey, but I can't stand this stuff. I once, when I in my youth, um, we were around at a house kind of party thing, and I once kind of thought it'd be a good idea to drink whiskey right from the bottle, and drank a lot more than I should. And well, let's just say I've never really touched the stuff since. So I'm not really the I'm not really the person to ask that question of.
Well, I love it. I love whiskey. Single
Do
malt.
you?
Yeah. Oh, I really do. It's a
Oh,
weakness of mine. I don't. I say I don't like blender. If I have a blended one, then I tend to put it in coffee and things like that. But
right, okay.
single malt is, and I did partake of a few whilst I was north of the border. And Jackie says, "Where do you see your tarot journey in 5 years' time?"
Um, I don't. I don't really know. Um,
Are you more live in the moment type of
I
guy?
think I think so. Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, I'd like to still be doing what I'm doing just now. Um, maybe even branching out to doing readings for people, in person rather than just online. I would quite like to kind of experiment with that. Um, even just like like one-on-one through um through I'm pointing at the screen as if you know what I'm talking about, but like as in like a Zoom meeting or something and doing tarot readings like that one on one rather than like the
Yeah,
kind of the style that I'm used to, which is live readings. I'd like to be kind of branch out and do that kind of thing, but yeah, I'm not really sure. Like you say, I think I'm a wee bit more living the moment.
yeah, I'm with you. I'm exactly the same. I don't have a 5 year plan. I don't even have a 1 year plan. I take things as they come, and
Yeah.
yeah, just live in the moment. All right. So my final question is the one about dinner guests. So three dinner guests, one ultimate that you want there above anybody else, and then two others.
So sorry, is this like celebrities or
Be anybody you want, dead or alive, famous or not famous, but you're throwing a dinner party and you can invite
yeah?
three guests, but one ultimate, two others.
Rachel Pollock would be my ultimate.
Good choice.
Um, Sia, the singer, Sia.
Yeah, okay. The singer.
Yep, I think she's a musical genius. I love her
Yeah.
music. Um, who else? Oh, I don't know. On the spot. Simon, let's have you there. Me, you, Sia, and Rachel Pollock. How good would that be?
It'd be great, but you'd have to break your rule and get some whiskey.
Oh, I don't mind having it for a. Do you know, we've actually got whiskey glasses. We got this package delivered, right? And it had these two random like wee whiskey glasses in it, and we were like looking at each other like, what? Where did this come from? And it was like someone sent this as a wedding present. What is this? And Sandy messaged his mum and was like, look, this is how she was like, oh yeah, that was me. I signed you up for like a Kickstarter thing. That must have been one of the wee treats. But we were like baffled for ages. So yeah, I've got nothing against having it in the house. I would happily get some in anytime you ever visited, Simon, but I just don't like drinking the stuff myself.
Yeah, I mean, I'd come. See ya, your good self, Rachel. Yes, and who was the other person you said? See ya, Rachel,
You?
and me. Oh,
You?
cool. Who's the third person? Right, paper or plastic? You happy to play?
Of
You know
course.
how this works because you're always in the catching up with. So, first thing, without overthinking it, paper or plastic?
Paper.
Oracle or tarot?
Tarot.
YouTube or Instagram?
YouTube.
Peanut butter or jam?
Jam.
Big parties or small gatherings?
Big parties.
Really?
I think
You're
so, yeah.
a party animal. I never would have thought. Wait or Crowley?
Wait.
Bath or shower?
Shower.
Bordered or borderless?
Borderless.
Dark and creepy or rainbows and unicorns?
Dark and creepy.
Indie or mass market?
Indie.
Tablet or PC?
PC.
Save or spend?
Save.
That's that question that you mentioned the other night.
Yeah. When you've been saving for as long as I have, it's got to be saved. I've been saving for a wedding and then before that for a house, so it feels like I've been saving forever.
You just want to go and spend, though.
Yeah, but it's nice to have that, have that there.
Money or free time?
Free time.
Phone calls or FaceTime?
FaceTime.
Movies at home or in the cinema?
Cinema.
Large cards or small cards?
Large cards, I think.
Life after death or total extinction?
Life after death.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
You're kind of both, actually. You get up really early, but you also you stay on late on lives and things. I'm like, how does he do it? Obviously, because you're a lot younger. But I'm like, the stamina. Woodland forests or sandy beaches?
Sandy beaches, I think.
And I pain to ask it because I know your answer, but I can't not ask it. Toilet roll hanging over or under?
Over.
Ah, you've even
That.
got
I have. See how much easier that is?
No, just turn it round just for a second, just to entertain me. Just look. Doesn't that look?
Oh, like you've got, and then when you tear it off, you've got a big bit hanging, and
You've got a bit hanging anyway.
no, you don't. To be honest with you, do you know what? I've said a couple of times, I'll take it either way. See, as long as it's on the thing. What I hate is when you've got an empty roll sitting there and someone just pops it on top like that.
Why would they do that? The
I
animal.
don't know. I don't know what's that about. But yeah. As long as it's on the actual holder, I don't really care.
Yeah, that's funny that you had a prop.
Yep.
I was like, well, I leave that question off because I know his answer. But I'm glad I did. All right, so I'm going to I've not done a card pull with the Witch's Wisdom yet because I only got it on Sunday. So I'm going to put a card. Do you want to just talk about a deck that you're working with at the moment, or your favorite deck, or one that's kind of, holding your attention? Show a few cards and talk about it.
Sure. So the deck that I'm going to talk about is the Santa Muerte tarot deck.
Okay.
So this is the box. The reason that I'm picking this one, it's one of the ones I got for my birthday, but it's not like strictly wider weight Smith. Rider Waite Smith. It's not strictly Marseille. It doesn't adhere to a particular system, which I actually quite like the way that it works. When you look at the number and look at the meanings, it is quite numerological. Like for example, the sevens. You look at the sevens and look at the images and the meanings, and I feel as though they're actually quite close to the idea of growth from stability. Um, the colors are just amazing. Um, like you, I think was it you that said, Simon, the other night that the half borders just put you off.
You just jarred with me a bit.
Yeah, like I thought I would have been like that, but I actually really like it. I particularly love. I've got some cards out to show. Like I love the tens. Oh, sorry, Simon. Moth alert, not mod alert. Eh? But yeah, the tens and how they show this, and like not if you think about the Rider Waite Smith, not a lot of the tens show the idea of the cycle renewing, of change. So the idea of that having like the moth or the butterfly in 10 for me is just amazing. Um, and then I've got a couple of cards that I just really like the Seven of Wands. Love this card. I just think it's a really beautiful image. Um, and then a couple of the twos are really nice as well. The Two of Pentacles and the Two of Swords. Just really, and do you know, see this Two of Swords? I hadn't really appreciated before how that fits in with the idea of this kind of conflict and stuff. But if you look at the scissors, the sharp, they've been fixed together in such a way that the sharp edges are pointing outwards. Don't know if you can see that.
Oh yeah.
And I hadn't noticed that before. And then it just hit me. It was like, yeah, okay. So to bring that into use, to bring that into balance, you're either going to have to take the entire thing apart, or you're going to have to really like, kind of wrench the scissors. If you've ever had like a wee cheap pair of scissors and you've done this by accident, you've got to really kind of scrape them together and pull them to the other way around. So and it's that idea of being in two minds about something yourself, or being caught in the middle of two different points of view. There's got to be that, either that kind of clash that ends up in harmony, or there's you've basically got to take them apart altogether. Whoops, being a bit too extravagant there about my brandishing my hands everywhere. But yeah, and that's so I really like that image. I think that's really nice.
Yeah, cool. Do you have the Oracle, the Santa Muerte Oracle?
No, I don't. I'd only looked it up for the first time after you mentioned it the other night, and it does look really nice. So
Yeah.
I'll keep my eye on it for a wee bit and see how I feel.
Cool. Okay, so I had a jumper. I don't know if people spotted that, but it went flying out the pack. I had to go and retrieve it from the floor. I don't know what it is. It's the Eight of Fire. So this, I'm getting a bit of a glare. This is really different image to what we're used to seeing for Eight of Wands, which we would traditionally see in the RWS as those wands flying through the air. But I think looking at this, the message is the same. It's about making sure, and our message for the week to take away from this is, making sure that we've got everything aligned. We've got all our ducks in a row. I know we're not talking ducks here, but we've got these kind of all these little these monkeys sitting there all aligned up. And when I think about the Eight of Wands, it's about making sure that everything's aligned, all our ducks is in a row. We need to make clear our intentions to people so they understand kind of the journey that we're heading in and the reasons why. And it might mean that we have to reevaluate situations or change decisions that we've made in the past once we've got clear the direction that we want to be going in. So even if things feel like they're up in the air and we're flaying around, as long as we make our intentions known, once we've set our goals, we know what we're doing, we've brought people along with us, we may have readjusted some things, then it's about taking stock. And as you can see them here in this card, taking stock, but they're in control. They're thinking things through, they're looking ahead, they're planning the direction that they want to go in. And some things are worth sticking with, even if it seems to other people that it's chaos. Some things, once you know something that you're passionate about, the direction you want to go in, we can listen to other people, take advice, but it's about sticking with it and realizing that some things actually are worth fighting for. Don't rush ahead. I think that's sometimes a message that we get as well with the Eight of Wands, or here the Eight of Fire. It's about it's not rushing ahead. It is about planning, preparing, but then focusing and going in that direction. I'm reminded of that that saying. What is it? If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And you know, I think this image is really beautiful. I'm sorry there's a bit of a glare, but hopefully you can see it. It's a very different energy from what we're used to seeing with the Eight of Wands, but that's the message I draw from it, you know, using that underpinning knowledge of RWS as well. So make sure you have everything lined up, focus, plan, think things through, readjust if you need to readjust, but you know, take stock and then go for it. Go for what it is that you want to achieve this week. Chris, thank you so much for being my guest today. Really lovely to chat to you. We've just gone a little bit over the hour and a half, but it is absolutely just flown like the Eight of Wands. It's
it really has, hasn't it? No, listen, the thanks go to you, Simon. Thanks so much for doing this, not just for me, but for everyone. You know, you give up so much of your time for us all, and I just appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for saying that. It gives me as much pleasure as hopefully it does other people, but you've been an amazing guest. If you haven't checked out Chris and his channel, Elemental Cartomancy, I cannot recommend it highly enough that you do so. If there is anybody in the chat who's a mod that can put a link in, then do. But if not, and if you're watching this back later, have a look at the description below. There's a link to Chris's channel in there. So hop over, give him a sub and a bit of love, because he really deserves it. Thank you. Next week will be a regular Cup of Catropin card, so hopefully see you all again for a live next Saturday at 4 p.m. And yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you to the mods for being the amazing support that you are. Thank you to everybody, almost 100 of you, which is an amazing turnout for a live chat, and for your questions as well. Really appreciate everybody's support. Until next time, guys, look after yourselves, stay safe, go in peace. Namaste and blessed be.
Bye, everyone.